Hey guys, welcome back to the Eli Phillips Perspective. This is a bit different, scenery. We're in Maine, and it's been a great trip so far. And right now we have Abby Phillips. She just got back from Boston. We had
Hey.
Jonathan Mosley on a couple episodes before, and she was down there with him, serving, and she spent the whole month down there. But can you kind of just tell us, what you're doing down there? What was the month like? Just brief summary.
Yeah. So basically, 22 of us went, 22 college students, and you want me to tell you the schedule?
Sure.
Okay. So like Mondays, we would wake up at like 6 a.m. So it was great. And then we would go hand out granola bars like with the church cards. So like, it's really hard to in Boston, like as you can imagine, like promote a church. So like they actually do something that's really genius. Like basically we go to train stations and we like use cards, like business cards basically of the church, and then we hand out granola bars. And honestly, I mean it gets you really used to rejection. I will say that, but a lot of people actually take them, and there has been people that have like went to the church because of the granola bars. So it's kind of cool to see. Like we handed out, I think the math was like 9,200 or something granola bars by the end. So it's like kind of crazy. Um, then we had a break. We did like these modules. Like we did a lot of like kind of training things, which were like really useful, like for Boston, just for like to grow our own faith. So we worked on those for like hours together. Usually we go to a coffee shop. And then after that, we did the Great Exchange, which, if you're not familiar with the Great Exchange, it's basically like this spiritual survey where you just go up and ask people like, hey, like we want to know the spiritual climate of the area. And so it's kind of like a way to like exchange your faith with one another. Like they tell you about their faith, you tell them about yours, and it's kind of just like, it's cool. Like it's obviously really scary, but I think it grew all of us a lot. I mean, we can talk about more about that later, but
Yeah, I mean, it kind of leads into the next question I wanted to ask, just because every mission trip in a way it's gonna grow you and it's gonna stretch you and force you to do things that you don't want to. So, what were things that you had to do that, like, man, I really don't want to do this? You really got out of your comfort zone. It's not things you're good at, and you can see improvement since you're doing it daily. What were things like that?
I mean, I think the main thing probably was the Great Exchange. Like I think it's honestly terrifying just going up to someone, like having no idea how the conversation's gonna go. Because I personally am not like a super like outgoing person. Like I'm outgoing once I get to know you, but definitely not at first. So it's like the first day I did Great Exchange, I was absolutely terrified. And I think like the only way to combat that is just to pray about it and just realize like it really is like the Holy Spirit working through you. So it's like whenever you're sharing the gospel, like it's not about you, it's not about proving yourself, like you are on the winning side. It's genuinely just about going out saying the truth, like, and like the Holy Spirit will work through you, because there's no way I could have done that alone. But I think like the first day I did go out there, like I was terrified. So then I was with can I name drop people here or?
Yeah.
Okay, I was with Max and Lindsay the first day, and like shout out. I was so basically they went up to this guy and they ended up having a conversation for like an hour, like first day. So I was just sitting there praying, and I was like, you know what, like I need to talk to people. So like I went up to this girl and I was just like, hey, and so the conversation went well. I shared like a little bit about the gospel. She was like Buddhist, I think. So I mean, she wasn't that interested, but it's really crazy, I think, when you're there, just realizing like how open people are. Like if you genuinely care about someone and you want to know about them and you care to hear about them, like they're very interested in hearing about you. So I think like that's definitely a good approach, is just like you caring about them, wanting to hear about them. Like they're very open to just hearing what you have to say. So I think that's a really good way to approach it. But in the end, I asked her to pray for her, and she didn't even know what prayer was. So I think that was just kind of like really eye-opening to me, is like she didn't know what prayer was. So it was like I got to tell her that, I got to pray over her. But obviously that was terrifying, because that's another thing that I was really scared about coming on the trip. Something that really stretched me is like I don't really love praying out loud, because when I pray I don't really use the huge words that everyone else does. And so like it's really scary. Like obviously it's a conversation with God, but I think it's like I really had to get out of my head in the way that like it's not trying to impress anyone with the way that you talk. So I think like we had to do these prayer walks like every week. We did them on a different college campus. So I think like that, like we prayed a lot. Like prayer is a big thing for Kings Hill, like they really, really like love prayer, and so like they do it a lot. So I had to get comfortable praying out loud. I think it's something I'm really thankful that I like push myself into doing, because obviously it's really important to do that. But yeah, that day at the Great Exchange ended up being like incredible. Like me, Lindsay, and Max, we came together at the end, and we were like all on fire. Like we were so excited. We were jumping up and down because like we didn't like convert anyone that day, but it was just still like so awesome. So I think just like stepping out of your comfort zone and like reaching that point to talking about it, because like really the worst thing that can happen is like they don't care, like they tell you no. Like it's like, why are we not just like doing that more casually, because there's really nothing that we have to lose.
Yeah, I remember whenever I went to Jamaica, it was like that. It was the same thing. One, like, so what we would do is we had these care packages with like food and all this stuff, and we'd go up and knock on people's doors, and like we'd just ask, you know, like, hey, you can have this, and then we'd ask their name if we could pray. So there'd be like a big group of us, and I was always worried that like I'd stumble over my words or like forget what I was saying, just whenever I'm praying. And you know, you realize once you do it like one or two times, like it's like, dude, it's not even that hard. You're just praying, and it's calm, it's easy, but you know, it's kind of like doing it first. You know, the first time you do it, it's really hard.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit more than one time for me, but that's fine.
What are you talking about? I'm talking about the first time you do it.
Yeah, it was like at least 10 for me, but it's fine.
So what, just kind of, I had this question sort of at the end, but I kind of want to jump into it now. You sort of touched on it, but how do you think God really impacted you and changed you on this trip? Just because, I mean, it's a mission trip, but you're there for a month. Like most mission trips are either like 2 years or like 1 week. So you were there kind of in the in between. What was it like, you know, being there for the whole month and just kind of all you're doing is serving God?
I think that like I learned, like they asked us this question at the end too, and it's like there's genuinely like hundreds of ways that like I grew and learned, and just I don't even know, like was in awe the entire time. But I think for me, like I really like uncomfortableness is something that I really struggle with. Like I, of course, like anyone don't want to do the uncomfortable, but like on this trip, like I really learned to just like dive into the uncomfortableness and like what God calls you to do. Like for me, it was like no doubt that God was calling me to Boston. Like anyone that knows me knows that like this, as soon as I went for the first time, like I felt a calling there. Like I saw Boston sweatshirts every single day of my life in Georgia, like because who else saw that? No one. So it's like it was clear that I was being called there. So it's like I wasn't necessarily scared for the whole month, but it's like I was very scared for the little things. Like I don't know if y'all know, but so like our living situation, like let me just explain it a little bit. So we had this like double decker or triple decker house, and so like one floor was like the girl floor. We had 9 girls, and then one floor was the guy floor. I think there was 9 guys too, but it's like there's like 3 rooms, so there's like 2 bunk beds in every room, and like 1 bathroom. There's 2 washers and dryers, so it's not like ideal. So I think like at first I was kind of really worried about that, because it's like I wanted alone time. I wanted I wanted my own space, right? I've never really had to share like that before, but it's like it's just really cool to see how like God makes us so adaptable, because like it was never an issue. Like it was never an issue. And so I think things like that, like there's so much uncomfortableness. Like I think I've told a lot of people this, but the only thing for me that was like truly comfortable about the trip was like the fact that I had my phone. Like I didn't know anyone, and like a lot of other people knew, like they came with like a buddy, and like I didn't have a buddy, and like that's not something that's like really comfortable for me. But I think like there's just a lot of those areas where it's like God grew me so much just like in life, because like he put me in those positions, and like obviously like he was there for me, like he got me through it. And it's like if I didn't trust him, like there's no way that I could have done that stuff. But it's like at the same time, like I grew so much through that. And I think that leads into the point where we learned a lot about like God's strength versus our strength. Like at first, I think the first week we have these cohorts, and it's kind of just like life groups for us. It's like 4 girls and like a couple leaders, and so like they just kind of really like disciple us, and it's a really great time. So the first week we talked a lot about like what it means to like really truly rely on God's strength versus our own. I think the first week a lot of us were relying on our own strength, and it was like you could tell, because like I was very anxious. I was very much nervous about like making friends and like, you know, just like anything in general. But it's like that's not what I should have been focused on. And so the second that I actually truly like laid that all down like to God and just was like, all right, God, like I know that you got me, like, and started truly relying on his strength, like that is when I found like the joy in the chaos and just like stopped my like anxiousness, and truly just like that's when the community got better because I wasn't so in my head, like it was just there because I knew that like God's got me. So
Could you dive in a little bit more on how you kind of just lay it all down for God and trust in his strength, not your own?
I think before coming to Boston, instead of like actually really like, you know, being in my Bible, meditating, like I should have been doing that a lot more. Like I should have been just like talking to God, praying, meditating, just like getting in the right heart posture for the trip. I definitely was not doing that at all. Like I cared a lot more about like saying bye to people, which isn't a bad thing, but it can be when it becomes above those things. So I think I had to like go outside and like remove myself like from just like I got FOMO for sure. Like it's like first week everyone wants to make friends, but it's like that should be like top priority. It's just like truly like sitting there being like, God, like this is what I'm anxious about, telling him each thing, like going through all of it and just letting him kind of like hug me, like, you know what I mean? And just from that point on, it was like I had patience, I had peace. Like it was just like I knew that whatever was gonna happen was the way that God wanted it to be. Like it didn't matter really if I did have friends, like, you know what I mean? Like however it turned out was gonna be how he wanted it to be and how he planned it to be. So I think just like having peace in that and like truly actually laying it all down.
Yeah, how did you mentioned earlier, most people had sort of a buddy or a couple friends that they knew. What was it like being the only person and then having to kind of budge yourself into those relationships that have already been formed? I'm sure that's very scary to do.
I mean, it really was. It really was. Like especially the first couple of days, I was like really nervous about it. And it kind of just seemed like everybody knew each other, and it was really scary. But I will say, like, the Christian community that I experienced there is like unlike any Christian community I've ever experienced before. Like it was like so awesome. And I think my high of the day for day one was just how like inclusive everybody was. So it's just like I think like one of the like Kings Hill Church has these like it's like Jesus over everything or whatever, like stuff like that. And so one of them was like community over cliques. And I think like it was like that from the beginning. Like we were all just one big family, and like there was cliques, but it was never like there was any like I don't really know. Like we had jokes that we were like trios and duos, but it wasn't like that at all. Like it was like everyone there truly, just like there was no like, oh well she's weird, he's weird. Also gossip there. I want to talk about this. Like there was zero gossip, and I think that's obviously something that like is a sin, but it's obviously something that like a lot of us struggle with is gossip. And like I think even being at a Christian school, like I think at Elka, like there's a lot of things that everyone looks down upon, and they're like, no, like if you're a Christian you can't do that. But I think gossip is just not one of those things, and I really don't know why it's not one of those things, because like the entire time no one talked bad about a single person, and no one like wanted to. No one had the desire to go talk about anyone else, because we all loved each other and we all wanted to see each other succeed and like serve God well and serve the community well. We all like encouraged each other 24/7. Like there was a lot of laughs and there was a lot of jokes, but it was like all encouragement. And I think like those things are just key differences. We had a sermon on like friendship in general, and I think like as we were doing it, all the points that he was hitting, I was just like, man, like everybody here does all those things, and like that is so encouraging to me.
Yeah, do you think that God kind of circled y'all all up, and like you can see people there, they had different gifts and they all kind of linked up together to form this kind of one unit that y'all had?
Yeah, I think that's something how you could see like God is so intentional in that. Like all of us are so different, but it's like truly like there's not a single person on the trip where I'm like it would be the same if you weren't there. Like we needed every single person, and I think it's just so cool to see how like that was so intentional. And it's like everyone had different gifts, everyone was different, and we even went around at the end and like told all of our spiritual gifts, and like they were all different, but it's like I think it's so cool that they were so different, because then we could all use our gifts to glorify God while we were there for different things.
Can you kind of talk about your spiritual gifts and also, gifts that you weren't able to use and you sharpen other gifts? Kind of like, stepping out of your comfort zone, But how were you able to sharpen those gifts?
I think my gifts were like hospitality. I don't remember the exact words, but it was just like caring for others. And then I think like grace or something. And I will say though, something that my cohort leader said was like, even if you like, not everyone has the gift of evangelism, and I think like that really like I needed that because it was so, again, frustrating at first. Like I think it is, spiritual warfare is so real while you're there. So I think it's so easy, like in comparison is so like real while you're there. So it's like it's so easy for me to compare myself to others and just think that like, oh, like they're so much better than me at like evangelism or like just like teaching the gospel, like so many different gifts. But it's like it's so easy to like get just upset about that. And so I think like when she said that, it really like gave me peace in knowing that like, yeah, like my gift may not be evangelism. I mean, one, that doesn't mean I don't need to do it, but also like I really do like have a gift of like caring about others. And I think for a while like I kind of saw that as like not a strength because that means I can be hurt very easily by others. But it's like, no, like that's such a gift from God. And I can see that on the trip, even like I wanted to care for others and like other people needed to be cared for. So it was just like in the way that like other people might be really good at evangelism, but like they don't see the things that I see to care the way that I do. And so I think like it was really cool to see that being used. And also I got put on the like, we had these different ministries, like some people help set up in the morning, some people I don't even know another one, but mine was member care, and there was only 2 people that was member care. So I think it was just cool to see that like God is so intentional in that, like he purposely placed me there because he knew like that was my gift. Like my gift isn't like waking up early in the morning and like, well, even hospitality, like they had to like get there super early and like greet everyone, and like I love that, but I'm not very social. And so like it's just clear that, you know, like I was in that one for a reason. But like you were saying before, like even evangelism is a gift, like teaching is a gift. And so I think like just strengthening like those, like just getting practice in those, like you, like no one's just like super good at it to start off. I guess some people have that gift, but it's like it's scary for everyone. Like everyone in the room at the end was like, yeah, I was terrified at the beginning. And I think that's also something to note, is like that's scary for everyone, but like the more practice you do it, the more times you do it, like it gets easier, it gets better. And you just, I don't know, it stops becoming scary. Like I think at the end people mention like, now I get excited to do it, like now I want to do it, I don't like, there's no nerves anymore. So I think that's cool.
Yeah, I want to talk about spiritual warfare, but I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. I want you to kind of dive into, you know, in Georgia, like you had no schedule, you know, it's summer. You can wake up whenever you want, you can do whatever you want. There's no structure. But then whenever you go out to Boston, like you said, you're waking up at 6 a.m. every day and, you know, 30,000 steps every day. You know, I'm sure that gets really tiring. Was that ever a challenge or anything?
I mean, obviously, if you know me, you know I don't love to wake up early. But I think, like, it's something that was so cool to see, like God gave me joy in the midst of chaos. And, like, that is something I wrote down because, like, let me just walk you through, like, one of my busiest days. So this was, like, the last week, like, the day before the last week. So, like, our train line was down. So we had to wake up, like, extra early to do granola bars. It's, like, the third weekend, so, like, you're kind of tired already. And then I also had to cook dinner that night. Shout out Abby Phillips. We had to cook dinner for 22 people. And so then after that, we had to go get groceries immediately. Then we had to go back to our house, and we had to go back. There's a lot of back and forth in Boston and a lot of walking. And it happened to be, like, 99 degrees that day, too, because it was, like, a heat front. So basically, like, and then we also did the Great Exchange that day. We normally do it for 2 hours. We did it for 4 hours. And then as soon as we got back, we had to cook. And our house doesn't have very good AC. So it was, like, 100 degrees in our house. And I was cooking on, like, a fire. So I was, like, cooking 60 pancakes on a fire. Me and Abby Phillips were doing this. And it was so, like, okay, that sounds pretty miserable, right? Like, all of that together sounds miserable. But it's, like, I remember being in the midst of that and, like, just having so much joy because, like, yes, like, in the huge victories of, like, yeah, I just shared the gospel, like, of course you're, like, on fire then, but it's, like, also, like, when you're just in that environment and just when you live that way in general, like, not even just that, like, even in the mundane, like, even in the daily life, like, when you're truly living for God and like everything you're doing is like service to him and glory to him, like you have so much joy. Like I don't know how to explain it, but it's like during all of that, like I was on fire, like I was on top of the world, and it's like, yeah, I was exhausted, like I crashed on the couch after that, and like I almost had a heat stroke. But it's like also like God provides. Like shout out to Lindsay, Emma, and Brenna, because they literally sat there and fanned us with like pans for like an hour. And it's like, again, like after you've been doing that all day every day, like you've been going for 3 weeks, waking up at 6 a.m., like you are exhausted, but it's like God gives you strength. And like that's what I mean when I say you have to rely on God's strength, because there's no way we could have done stuff like that every day for a month without it. Like there's just no way.
Yeah, I remember I was watching this podcast with Forrest Frank, and he said that he was driving over this bridge, and he was like, I just feel like God called me to run out of gas, right? So he ran out of gas, and it was like a 2-mile walk to the gas station. And he was like, the whole time he just had straight joy. I mean, he was singing, laughing, and he didn't care at all, just because he knew that this is what God intended, and it was all for his glory. And oftentimes if we run out of gas, we got to walk 2 miles. We're gonna be very frustrated. I'm sure it was very hot and all these things, but God just gives you peace in times of storms.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's exactly how I felt. I think it was like that almost every single day. Like there was only one time on the trip where I can remember that I was like genuinely like just like frustrated and like in a bad mood. Like, and I mean that was obviously on me, but it's like it's just so cool to see like throughout everything. Like there was things that we did that like weren't ideal and not fun. Like a lot of things we did were not ideal, but it's like nobody cared. Like, and it wasn't just me that had that great attitude. It was like everyone on the trip. Like there wasn't a single person that was like just not happy with what we were doing. Like everyone had the joy of the Lord, and it was just so cool to even witness.
Yeah, so spiritual warfare, I know for me in Jamaica, like spiritual warfare was really real. Like it wasn't even anything, like I don't even know how to explain it, but like the whole time I just had anxiety about like my faith, and if my faith was even real. And like I just felt like something was targeting at me the whole time, and I was just trying to get over it, but it felt like nothing was relieving it. And I remember one day I don't even know, it was like Doug Campbell, he was talking, and I just like it just clicked with me that I just need to like let my pride go and just give it to God, because I was trying to fix everything when in reality I'm never gonna fix it. Like I just got to give it to him and let him do it. And then after that, like it was all gone, and it was just like so much better, so much more peaceful. So what was kind of spiritual warfare for you like?
Yeah, I think okay, spiritual warfare was very real, and it was very hard. A quote that Nyla Osmani actually told me was, wait, let me not mess it up. It was like, you can do everything for God, but not everything with God. And so I think like that really hit me like hard, and like I had been focused on that for like the whole month. Like it's a great quote. But like I think I was focused on that to the point to where I was like, is my faith even real? Am I doing enough? Like, am I, like, I don't really know. It's like, I don't really even know how to explain it either, like you said, but it's like, I felt like there was one night where I went outside and I was just like panicked. Like I sent a voice memo to Leah Peck, and I was like, tell me if my faith is even real, because like, I don't think that it is right now. Like I'm so stressed. Like I don't even know what to think. And it's like, I think like I've been texting with several people that are also on mission trips, and like they feel the same way. And I think you just have to realize it, but also you have to realize like how much of this is like, this is God trying to grow you in your faith and trying to like stretch you, and how much of it is Satan telling you lies. So I think you have to be careful also with that. Is like, yeah, like there's a lot of ways that like I had doubts, and like they were good because like I needed to grow in my faith in those areas. But there was also a lot of ways where it's like you do just have to have peace and give it to God, and just realize like, yeah, like it's not about me, first of all. And it's like nothing that I can do on this trip is going to be enough for like what God is doing. Like he's doing it through you. Like what's the quote that you said?
It's who are you to think that you're big enough to mess up God's plans?
Yeah, so he also wrote that in the letter that he sent to me. So it's like I also was like kind of trying to dwell on that, just because like, yeah, like even if I like wasn't a Christian, like God would have still used me. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's so many like things where like you can make it about yourself and you can stress out and you can doubt because you're not good enough, but ultimately like, none of us are good enough, none of us are high enough to like be like on God's standards, but it's like he will use you regardless.
Yeah, I think we're gonna pause. We got to take a camera break. So.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, guys, we're back. I had to get a hoodie. I was really cold.
Also, I just want to say that we actually walked down an entire cliff to get here. So
Nah, facts. You need to see this. It's a lot of rocks and stuff, and rocks over there. And okay, anyways, so being in Boston versus being in the South, the Bible Belt, how is that different?
Honestly, it's a huge difference. Like, but I honestly think that I like it better. Like, I love the South. Like, I have the Southern pride. Like, when I say y'all in public and people laugh at me, like, I don't care. Like, I love it. But it is so different just because, like, everyone in the South knows of Christianity, claims that they're a Christian, has the Hobby Lobby Bible verse signs in their house, regardless, And so I think, like, in the North, like, I mean, in Boston, like, it was just crazy, like, going up to people, talking about the Bible, and them just, like, having no idea what Christianity is. Like, but I think also, like, in some ways it's better because it's, like, then you're not having to be like, well, this is what it means to have, like, a true relationship with Jesus. You're just, like, this is what it means. Like, this is how my faith is. And, like, they, like, are a lot more, like, I think, interested in someone that's kind of just numb to it. Like, I think a lot of us, like, even people that are Christians, like, are a lot more numb than the people there just because, like, it's just a huge difference. Like, I don't know. Like, I think it was culture shock for a lot of us, I think, when we went out for the first time and, like, people didn't even know, like, I said, like, what prayer was and, like, that Jesus died on the cross and, like, all that stuff. Like, it's just crazy. And so I think that's where, like, the local church becomes so much more important, like, for the people there. It's just, like at the church that we're at, he says that, like, your top priority should be, like, God, like, your family, close friends, and, like, the church, and, like, the people at your church, your community. And I think, like, that is so true. And I think, like, people in the South have relied on that a lot less. Like, it's more of, like, oh, yeah, we're going to come to church on Sundays, Wednesdays, get our community, then leave. Like, there's, like, really good aspects of church here, too. Like, don't get me wrong. But I think they're just so special. Like, they truly are such a family. And they do so much more together just because, I mean, they kind of have to. Like, the heart is just so there. Like, I think that's, like, one thing that really stood out to me is, like, the heart of the church and the people that have, like, moved to Boston for the local church. Like, there's, I would say, like, a good bit of Kings Hill are people that have, like, moved there for the sake of the gospel. Like, not just people that are on staff there, but, like, people that are just, like, in the congregation and have just moved there to work and just, like, to be a Christian there and to be a light there, like, in their workplace. Like, we had a sermon on that, too. And it talks about how, like, they might be, like, the only Christian at their job or, like, one of the only Christians. And it's, like, to us, like, that's kind of hard to fathom. But it's also just such a big, like, it's a mission field, like, truly every single day. Like, you don't have to go out of the U.S. Like, Boston is said to only be, like, 3% saved or something, which is crazy. And so I think, like, being there and just, being around, like, you are, like, we were with a church, right? But, like, other than that, like, we weren't surrounded by anyone that knows God or is a Christian or really even knows, like, what the Bible is about. So I think, like, that was just really, really eye-opening.
Yeah, I know Nico on an earlier episode, he was talking about, one, how important the local church is, especially whenever you're in college, just not only having a BCM, but having a local church to support. And he also was talking about how college students, a lot of them, not even just college students, but people in their 20s, 30s, they're trying to figure out who they are in life. And, if you present them, you're like, hey, this is what I'm doing, and it's really working for me, and I'm super happy, Christ is, like, I don't even know, but if you present that to them, they're going to be a lot more open to accepting that because they want to figure out what life's meaning is, But also, like you said, in the South, I feel like people kind of brush off church, like, as sort of a people and not, it's just an event for people in the South. Was it different for people in the North just because, when they go to church, like, it's a people, it has a meaning, it's not just something everyone does on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, I think it definitely is. I think something they brought up earlier So Kings Hill is trying to plant a church in Southie, like South Boston. They're trying to plant another church, and so we would like go around and ask people like, what do you think about this? Like, what do you think Southie needs? And like a lot of them would be like, I think that's awesome. Like, I'm not religious, but like I think a lot of young people are seeking religion. So it's like, if y'all do plant a church, like that would be great. Like there's not a single like Baptist Christian church like in all of South Boston, and there's like a lot of people that live there. So it's just like, that's, first of all, that's crazy to think about for us, because it's like there's a church on every single corner. And so like, again, like God can do so much just through that alone. And so I think like that was super cool to hear. What was your original question?
The difference and how people perceive the church, because you know, you got people in the South who go to church every Sunday just because everyone does it and it's a thing to do, and then in the North they go to church to actually be in church.
Yeah, I think it's just very, very intentional. Like everything they do is like deeply rooted in like just like what Jesus wants us to do, and less of like a, well, this is what like churches do. And so like it was just like super cool to see, like it's so intentional, the heart is there. And I think like that is what a lot of the times like it's lacking in the South, because it's just so like normalized.
Yeah, I know, like I was talking to a Catholic a couple episodes ago, and something that really I like about Orthodox is just how a lot of them, it is their life. You know, most Baptists and Protestants, you know, it's a thing to do on Sunday, at least, you know, what I've seen. But like the Orthodox, it's very, you know, it has meaning. It, you know, it is their life. Everything is connected, you know, how it should be. And I think that's one thing that the Protestants can learn from that.
Yeah, I think like, and that is how people in Boston live. Like I said, like they have moved there for the sake of the church, or like just for the sake of like that's their life. And I think like that is something that like everyone like should be doing. You know what I mean? And it's like, it definitely convicted me, and I'm sure it convicted a lot of people there, is like, are you truly living like that is your everything? And like, is that your main focus? Like, you know what I mean? I think like we say it is, but like look at the root of it. Like, is it truly?
Yeah, so what is one thing after being in Boston that you do feel like you need to change coming home back to, you know, Georgia?
I think for sure just that, but also I think it was just really cool to learn, just like I have a tendency of just thinking that like I'm really awkward. So like I don't really love awkward situations. I tend to like avoid them. And like I'm someone that's very personable, but like only to people that I already know and love. So I think like going there, it was such a lesson that like just talk to people. Like, you know what I mean? Like that is the literal goal of our life, is to like go out and make disciples. So it's like that should really be like your everyday mission. It's just like talking to people and like being friendly and like showing them the love of Christ. Like, why are we not doing that more? You know what I mean? Like, I think at least for me, like I need to just have the hard conversations, because it's like, what is the worst that's gonna happen? Like, just be way more personal, like truly care about others, like in a way that like you only can like if you are filled like with fruit by like the Spirit. But it's like I don't know, just like being more personal to everyone, and like having that empathy aspect that like we are called to have.
Yeah, that's one thing that I really want to improve at. I mean, I always really enjoy, you know, just like hearing people's stories and talking to people, but then like I go to my day-to-day life and I rarely do it, not because I don't want to, just because I don't think about it. I don't have the, you know, purpose and intention to go out and talk to people. And I often find myself passing people like, dang, like I wish I could know his story, I wish I could talk to him. And like you said earlier, you know, people, if you kind of, you know, show a little bit of kindness and just a little bit of respect, like people will share with you so much about them. Just because, I mean, you're a random stranger, you know, it doesn't really matter if you know all their deepest, darkest secrets, because you're never going to see them again. But that's something that I definitely want to improve on. But what is something from the trip that you want to implement into your life, or something that the trip has showed you that you need to implement?
I think this wasn't necessarily like the trip, but it was just like something in our cohort that we talked about. Basically like just the Sabbath in general. I think like we had on our trip actually like a rest day, but like it wasn't for like, they made it very clear that like it wasn't for like exploring the city. Like we had days for that. It was like truly just to like abide in Christ. And I definitely didn't do it on the trip as well as I like wanted to, as well as I like desired. But Like, I think just like having a day where like you truly like aren't doing anything. Like, both of my cohort leaders say that they do this, and like I was blown away by it. Like, they put on their calendar like, this is my Sabbath day, like once a week, even once a month. Like, start small, but it's like they have a day where like they will wake up and like do their quiet time, like cook a meal and just like talk to Jesus as they're cooking their meal, and then just like go out and like nature and like pray and like listen to a podcast, or like just be alone, like abiding in God, like for an entire day. Like, that's the least we can do, is like give God a day. Like, we give time for our friends, family, like to hang out, be intentional. It's like, why are we not that intentional with God to like cook a meal with him and just sit down and like eat dinner? Like, that's something I used to do at college a lot when I lived alone, was just like go on a prayer walk and then just like cook dinner with just me and God, and like talk about it, like talk about my day, just talk about life, like just meditate with him. And it's like, that is something that we do not do enough, that like I think that like I definitely want to start doing, like weekly, monthly, like starting small for sure, but like really like, I don't know, like making that a focus.
Yeah, how do you plan on doing that? Of course, this summer it's going to be really easy, but then you go off to college, life starts back up. How do you plan on, staying intentional with that and, doing it weekly or monthly, having that schedule set?
I mean, I think honestly, like for me, at least like at the college experience I've already had, it's easier to do it there, because I think like I don't know, like I can just like go off by myself and like go eat dinner, like go on a prayer walk. I think it's so easy in college. Like, I know Nico talked about this a lot, but it's like prayer walking is so good. And like if you're on a college campus, it's so easy to do that. Like, it's like truly just like yeah, like you have to choose God over like your friends or over like studying or whatever, but it's like how could you not? Like, you know what I mean? It's just like when you really like sit down, like it's very simple. Like, it's simple, but it's hard for us. You know what I mean? And so I think that's where you have to like separate like your worldly desires with like what you should be desiring. And so I think just doing it, like setting at least like one meal a week where I can just be like, you know what, like whether it's like you're just going in your car and like you're just gonna go eat McDonald's in your car and like talk to God, like I think like that's something you have to do. Or whether it's like even you do it with your friends, like you're in community and like y'all are praying together as you cook, or like y'all are having like fruitful conversations. Like, I think that's also good.
Yeah, I know, like, one thing that I used to do, and I've kind of fallen off from it, but, like, well, I mean, I always go to McDonald's and, like, get some food, and then, like, I won't go in. I'll, like, watch, like, videos on my phone and just eat in my car. But, instead of watching videos or doing something like that, just literally just sits there, eat your McDonald's, just think, meditate, pray, and just kind of just have that alone time, too. Just get all your thoughts out, pray to God. Just because I feel like oftentimes, especially in America, like I remember in Jamaica, this was a big thing that I enjoyed, was like just slowing down and, having time to think and meditate and reflect is definitely really big. And the American culture is just go, 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 just all about success, all about money, all about fame, all these things. And oftentimes, if you just reflect back and slow down, you're going to like have a lot more come of that than, just trying to check off the next bucket list.
Yeah. Like, on our last day in Boston, one of our last days, they told us we were going on this field trip. Like, they weren't going to tell us where we were going. So we get there and we pull up to this graveyard. We go to Plymouth, Massachusetts. Like, shout out Plymouth, Massachusetts. But yeah, and we were in this graveyard and we're all like, what the heck? Like, we're in a graveyard. But it was like really, really sweet, because like the pastor gave us like encouragement, and then we just like went off by ourselves and like sat in the graveyard and like just prayed, meditated, like kind of whatever we wanted to do. And like that is probably one of my highlights from the entire trip, just getting to do that, because it was so fast paced. Like, it really was. But it's like we got like an hour to just sit there and like pray and like reflect and journal and like whatever we wanted to do. So I think like, yeah, like it's good to do that after a trip, but it's also good to do that after like a day or a week. Like, you know what I mean? Just because like you should be you should be living on mission like every day. Like, yes, I was on mission in Boston away from my like normal activity, but it's like this should be my everyday normal life. So it's like you should be doing that daily or weekly.
Yeah, I remember I was sitting in the Jamaican church, and I looked up and it was like, whenever you leave this church, you're on the mission field. And that was very real in Jamaica, but it's also real for churches, back here in your everyday small town. Whenever you leave here, you're on the mission field, not to just convert somebody, but to change people's lives and, show them how Jesus loved and things of that sort. But I know for me, like you said, journaling has been so beneficial for me. And I'll often just find myself so Like I remember I was journaling the other night whenever we got at our campsite, and like I didn't even have any more to say, but I was literally still writing just because I didn't want to end it. Just because it's such a great feeling, just being able to unwind, put your thoughts on paper, and also just for me, like being able to look back on that and like see what I was thinking, see what I was going through, how I was handling it. It really shows how much you've grown, in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I need to talk about this. So Melanie Collier, shout out to her. I love her, but she like made me this journal to take to Boston, and it was like this high-low silly journal. Like if you know me, like I ask you your high-low silly like every day. Like I did that on the trip every day, and she like did that for me, and then she also put like a section for like notes on the day, and so I would do that every single night to like unwind. And it was just like really sweet to like look back from like the first day to the last day, and just like my attitude, like my just like because I would put like things that I've learned, but I also put like funny things, just like the trip as a whole. Like I think like it was really really cool to see like from the beginning like my like anxiousness and like my just like lack of faith and like just lack of knowledge, honestly, and then like to the end of like how like just genuinely thankful I was, and just like the joyfulness I was talking about earlier, and just like how sad we were to leave. Like I think that's also something that like I am really thankful for, is just like how genuinely sad I've been to like leave the place, leave the stuff we were doing, leave the people, because like I love them and I loved it and I love what we're doing. So it's like I think like even in stuff like that, like being thankful was like such a blessing.
Yeah, I know for me, like just journaling in general, like you write down these thoughts that you feel are so important right now, and then you look back even a couple days and you're like, that really didn't matter. Like I was mad about that, but it didn't matter. Like I'm looking back on it now and it was dumb. But do you think after this you will continue journaling, or do you think no?
Yeah, I think I had never really like prayed journaling before. Like I don't know if you do that,
Yeah.
but like
write down your prayers.
yeah. So like I did it for the first time on the plane on the way to Boston. And people probably thought I was so weird because like who like journals on the plane, but like I do. And so like I did that, and it was like very much like very anxious, very just. And then I journaled again when we were in the graveyard, and then I looked back on both, and so it's like yeah, like I think it's very beneficial because like everything gets so wrapped up in my head when I pray. Like I think prayer has been something that like I love, and it's been constant, but it's also been very difficult for me because like I want to like sit down and like have a deep talk with God. Like I want to like sit there and like really like have points almost on like what I need to talk about and like things I need to like go through. And it's like I think in times like that, like I struggle to like find like the time to do that, or like just like the exact like good location to where it's like I'm walking around a river talking to God. Like you know what I mean? Like I really struggle like just doing that and like every day. So I think like journaling is the place where you can like really like just like throw all your thoughts down in a place where like like I'm sure for you have ADHD, so like it's really hard for you to like focus, but it's like when you're writing it down, like it's really easy to like organize it all and like focus. So I really like that, so I think I will.
Well, for me, not only it keeps me on task, but also while I'm writing it down, I'm praying it, and then it's slow. Like for me, I really enjoyed slowing down the process of things, especially like creatively. Like I really like analog things and just slowing down, because for the creative process, you can think about what you're doing so much more because it's slower. So if you're writing down your prayer, instead of talking really fast and praying and praying, you're writing it down and it's slow. You can think of more. You can think of what you want to say, and then you look back and you're like, okay, that was good, and you stay on track. Like that was really beneficial for me. Like it felt like it had more meaning when I wrote it down, and I was able to truly get out what I wanted to say.
Yeah, I mean I agree.
I had something, I don't even remember.
Well, I have a cool story, like if you want to hear it, I guess.
I'll allow it.
So I'm sure y'all are like wondering if we like got anyone to like convert, I guess, like to Christianity, and like we didn't, but I think obviously it's important to remember that like you are putting like I always say the thing that you said, like putting a rock in someone's shoe, and like we definitely use that a lot like while we were there, but like every single conversation like gets them thinking, so I think that's important. But like that wasn't where I was going with this. Anyway, so I was with we're always paired up with like a guy and a girl. So it's with Max, and then we just happened to like cross paths with like Cade and Dana, right? So like Cade and Max were like, there's two guys right there, like we want to go talk to them, right? So me and Dana were kind of just like talking. We were like, do we want to go talk to anyone? So we saw this girl on a bench, and we were gonna go talk to her, and then they got rejected or whatever. So we were like, oh, let's just leave. And then Cade was like, no, like go talk to her. And so it was just so crazy that like we were about to leave and we weren't gonna talk to her, but like it ended up being an hour-long conversation. And then we also had like 2 follow-up conversations with her, like at a coffee shop. And Dana definitely led it. Dana did great. It was so cool to see how passionate she was like towards the gospel. Like she shared the whole story, like from like Adam and Eve to like the resurrection and all of that. And I think it was really, really cool. Like I'd never really liked just been there to like walk someone through it before. That's never really heard it. Like she didn't really have any type of religious background really. And so, but I was like so shocked that like she wanted to like meet up. Like I think like it's just like I've basically been around people that have like grown up like in the church their whole life. So I think like for us it's kind of harder to like see like people that are just like, actually yeah, like that weird story of like someone eating fruit, like yeah, I want to hear more about that. But I think it's like people do like, so like I think it was like super encouraging for her to like come meet up with us and like have questions. Like they were really hard questions, like they were very theological, and I think like that also like strengthened our faith as well, just because like we were challenged in that way. And then the next time we got a pastor to come with us, and it was just so cool to see like how close like she is. And like basically like it was just cool because like he said it was like it all comes down to like whether or not Jesus resurrected or not. Like if he resurrected, like everything is true, and if he didn't, like it's all false. So I think like just like now that I have that perspective, it's like I have like actual like ways to like back up my faith. Like it's not like it is all about belief, like you have to take that step of faith, but it's also like there's a lot of evidence. So I think like it makes me want to like really dive into that more and like have like the evidence to back it up, because like when you do come across people like that, like you need to know. And so I think like yeah, like we haven't led anyone to Christ yet, but it's like we've gotten really close. A lot of people have had follow-ups, and so it's like that is encouraging to hear. Like, you know what I mean? Like whenever we meet, we debrief at the end of Great Exchange, like we'll always hear like such great things that people have, like the great conversations. So it's like I think that's so encouraging. But also it's like you can do the Great Exchange or just like I don't really know. It's kind of just like questions like what's your spiritual background, like do you believe in God, and then you kind of just like take it from there. So I think it's like if you are scared of like sharing the gospel with someone, like you can just go up to anyone like in a coffee shop and be like, hey, like I'm trying to get in the sense of the spiritual climate, like do you have a second talk? And like usually people say yes. And so it's like that is a great like introduction, but like also it's just encouraging in general to see that.
Yeah, I remember I was like halfway. I never finished the book, but I was reading it was sharing Jesus without freaking out. And it talked about, you know, people oftentimes overcomplicate, you know, sharing the gospel, just because it said the technique that it uses is, you know, you talk about the beginning of the world, right? How God created the whole world, and then you talk about how beautiful the world is, and there has to be a creator, right? And then you're like, don't you agree that like it's broken, like something is off about the world, it's evil, it's corrupt? And then you talk about, you know, the Savior, the Lord Jesus, how he resurrected, how he, you know, there is sin, but because there's sin, he died on the cross, and we are all going to go to heaven if we believe in him. But also it said, you know, many times you can just talk about how Jesus has impacted you and your relationship with Jesus, because you know, you think you're gonna mess it up and you're, you know, share false information, but if you're just talking about like what's happened to you, you know what happened, it's true, like it's meaningful. Just talk about what happened to you, how he's impacted you, how he loves you, all these things. And hopefully, I mean, you can never see their heart posture, but you know, if it's their time to, you know, believe in God, then it's their time.
Yeah, I think something that we had to learn coming was the 3 circles. Look up the 3 circles by King's Hill and watch the video. It's really beneficial, but it kind of goes through that in like a simple way, but like they really encourage you to like add your testimony. And I think like that's something that like a lot of people tried to do, and it's like when you add your testimony, it makes it so much more personal, and it's like then people can like relate more. Like I really like when I share the gospel, I want to be like relatable, you know what I mean? And so it's like when you talk about things that like have like you've been broken by, like for me it's like friendships and like idols in that way. And so I think like me talking about that like can resonate with someone else, and they're like, well, like actually like I'm not fulfilled in that way, and like I'm trying to find my fulfillment in things of this world. And so then it's like, and then you're like, well, for me it's like when I've truly started like finding my fulfillment in God, like that's when I became truly happy. And so it's like I think that's where like people are like, oh wow, like this actually is like it's not just like a story, it's not just a guy, it's like it's real life, and it like it's impacted people in real ways. So I think that's like super important, and it makes it a lot less scary.
Yeah, shout out Coach Carter with the 3 circles. But what I don't know if y'all's had that, but what Coach Carter's version has is at the very end it has blames, right? And it's like it's like blasphemy, lying, all these things, right? And if you check even one, then you're going to hell. Like you're not going to heaven. You're unworthy. But the thing is Jesus died and paid that penalty, so you are able to go to heaven. All those circles, right, with the relationship, and then you falling into sin, and then you come back to God. All those things don't matter if you don't have a relationship with Him in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Okay, we had to pause it again for the camera. But what were your 3 favorite memories from Boston?
Okay, wow. There's actually like 1 million and more. Like there's so many. Like Boston, my favorite. Like this is probably the favorite thing I've ever done. So it's really hard to narrow it down to 3 things. But I would say like first of all, just being in awe of Boston and like all the like the little adventures that we went on with each other. Like whether that be like spiritual things, like just things like within our like things that we were doing, or just like going to like a random street and like taking a picture, or like just everything. Like it was so fun. It was just like I'll never forget it. And then also, so we do these equip nights just for our it's like just for the like 10 tours, which
What's
is
that?
sorry. I'm sorry, I forget y'all don't know. It's like just us, like just the 22 of us, and then like someone will like speak. There's a message, there's worship and stuff. So usually after that we play games. We were all obsessed with games. Shout out One Night Werewolf, shout out Pass the Pigs. I don't like any of the other ones, so I'm not shouting those out, but we would usually play those. But like I don't really know, like for some reason we were just like, no, like we ended up like staying after and like just singing worship songs together for like an hour, and it was just like so like just like me like sitting in awe, like opening my eyes and just being like, wow, like this is what heaven sounds like, and like wow, like this is what like all of us want to be doing. Like it was like none of us would have changed what we were doing for anything. It was just like such like a surreal moment. It's like that's who I want my community to be, you know? And it's like it was just so cool. Like I don't know, like I'll never forget that. And then the last thing was honestly probably just like the house, like just living together and just like the fun things that we would do like in the random times, and like just like the fruitful conversations we would have, or like the hilarious conversations we would have, or like just like anything. Like it was just really fun to like live together. And like I think like I was called at a Christian frat house, and like I loved our Christian frat house. I think it's way better than a normal frat house, so if you ever have a chance to live in one of those, like I recommend it. Anyway, I just want to close by reading Luke 10:2. Hold on, if I even can, my hands are actually frozen. It's like the verse that we like, the whole thing's kind of based around Luke 10:2. And we also prayed at 10:02 every single day. We had alarms. We would pray at 10:02 every single day, like for just like us and just the people that we're harvesting for. Like it'll make more sense once I read it. And he said to them, "The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore pray earnestly to the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest." And so I think like we were based obviously the laborers, and like the harvest is like everyone in Boston. And so I think that's just a cool verse to like have on your heart in general. Like honestly, like set a 10:02 alarm and like pray for like yourself, your community, and like your just the people around you that you need to minister to. And I think like I don't know, like it was just really cool obviously getting to pray together, and like that, and also just like seeing like what God has like did for us, like the laborers. And like so I don't know, I really liked that, and I think that's just like a really good verse for them to like base it around. Yeah.
Before I end it, is there anything else you'd want to kind of share with them? A piece of advice, anything?
I would say just do it. Like whatever is in your own comfort zone, like just do it. Like all of this is out of my comfort zone, but it's like I wouldn't be the person I am right now if I didn't go, and it's like I wouldn't have learned the things I did. Like people wouldn't have been as like if it didn't work out this way. Like it's just like it's so cool to see like how, like I said, God's so intentional, and so it's like go do the things that make you uncomfortable for the sake of the kingdom and like for God. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
Well, I mean, dude,
Wait, sorry. I need to shout out every single 10 tour because they all told me to do this. I wish I could say all your names right now, but he'd probably kill me. So I love every single one of you, all 21 of you. I wish there was more I could say, but like, if you want a part 2 of all of y'all, I will.
Yeah, I really want a part 2 just because like there's so much more stuff we could dive into, but we're running out of time. Sun's setting. We gotta go eat. Pointless things. But next Saturday, hopefully, I'm gonna have a podcast. Honestly, I really don't know what it's looking like. On vacation, so I'm gonna try to stay
priorities.
I'm gonna try to stay consistent. But yeah. Goodbye.